Then there are things to do with aviation, and there are big ethical questions that you're going to have to face, and you're already getting involved in them. Is it right to sell daffodils or tulips in Cologne that have been grown in Nairobi and brought in on this plane? Now, I can tell you, I believe it's a fine argument, and I know very, very respectable people that will say passionately that it is completely wrong, and other for environmental reasons, and others that will say, if you talk to the Kenyan farmers and their economy, I would say passionately it's completely right. I'm interested in your opinion. Put your hands up if, on the whole, you feel uneasy, unhappy about moving plants from Kenya to Cologne on a plane. Put your hand up if you, on the whole, all things considered, in terms of the wider issues of social development and economic justice, that you think, on balance, it is right that this kind of trade is happening. My friends, you're showing that even within a logistics company, there is profound questions about the ethics of logistics in some industries. Actually, let me tell you that I am, funnily enough, maybe surprise you, on the side of the Kenyan farmer. I wonder how many tulips you think you could get on a plane. What do you think? 1,000? 50,000? I think you could get 1 million. They're pretty light. I don't know. I suspect you could get a lot if there's nothing else on that plane. If you did get 1 million tulips on one jet, then the amount of actual carbon cost per tulip is tiny. And what you'd say is, this is one of the highest value and most perishable products in the world. You know, one tulip is nearly €1. You know, you get a bunch of 10 for 10 euros. But at the peak, you know, just before Christmas or something like that. So it's a very high value product. So we could be carrying €1 million of product on this plane. Well, actually, that's not bad for a plane node. It might be quite an efficient way to transfer wealth from Cologne to Kenya, from people who earn 30,000, 40,000, 50,000 euros a year to people who only earn €2 a day. It's a difficult issue, and we can argue many ways around, but I'm interested in the debate on it. In coming to that, you know that one of the fascinating things about the world is how efficient shipping still is. And I'm interested in how many ships you have. Big ships. I know you've got ones going up and down a few of the rivers, including the canals in Amsterdam. But I don't know whether you've got any container ships. Do you have container ships? It's interesting. You know, you know, of course, that I can ship a container, including the cost of putting the goods into the container, onto the ship, all the way from London to Dubai, unstocking, stripping that ship empty, reshuffling all the things, putting them on another ship in Dubai, and taking them all the way down to Shanghai, taking it off the ship, putting it onto the port, and lifting it onto a lorry. I can do all of that process for less than the cost of driving it from London to Southampton, which, in case you didn't know, is about 150 kilometers. Amazing. Put your hands up if you knew that. Part of the reason is because there are so many empty containers going back to China because no one's got anything to sell them, okay, except bits of dirty plastic. And in fact, China is sucking up 30% of all the plastic waste of Britain just because there's nothing else to put in the containers except rubbish. So that's one of the reasons. But actually, if we do it the other way, if we were to take the, if we were to come back from China, I'm relocated back home, and I fill the container with all my possessions in Shanghai, and I deliver it to the dock for the cost of putting on the boat, shuffling it in Dubai, all the way to Southampton, off the boat. I can only drive it 400 or 500 kilometers before it's already the same as coming from Shanghai to London. So what it means is that shipping is basically free. It's almost zero cost compared to just about any other form of transport. And it's the reason why we will continue to see very vigorous economic growth anywhere where you can get a container in by ship. It's the reason why containers are boom industry. It's the reason why the coastline of Britain is becoming dominated by more and more little docks. Why? Because it's the new postal service. It's free. A little container off there, go 10 miles down the road, into the dock again. Another 2 containers off there, take 2 on. 10 miles down the road, another little container port, another 2 off there, and so on, all the way down. Anything but avoiding road and rail, because road and rail is so incredibly expensive, and don't even think about the planes. Now you could say, yes, but Patrick, what about speed? And that's true. Speed is a big issue with this. It requires a huge amount of planning. But nevertheless, it eliminates a lot of cost and it blows out of the water a lot of oil consumption. So we're going to see a lot of discussion about this, about energy saving in logistics. And that's why you're going to hear so much more about shipping. And one of the key challenges will be the companies who are starting to say we will offset all our logistics costs. And already it's happening. Travel companies are doing it. I just travelled on Eurostar. Eurostar have just said every journey you do is carbon neutral. Every molecule of carbon released as a result of your Eurostar journey has been offset. We have made a tangible, real, physical saving of carbon release somewhere else in the system for every journey that's done on a Eurostar. You've got airlines starting to do it. KLM and Air France have just announced that they are offsetting all growth in their airline industry. They're growing 5% a year. Every extra flight they do, over and above the old flying, will be fully offset, which means that over half of all the airline travel will be offset within the next 8, 9, 10 or 11 years, something like that, probably. You've got other airlines that are already fully offsetting. It will not be long, I think, and you may be doing this already, perhaps I'm already out of date, but not be long, I think, before you'll find courier companies boasting, logistics companies boasting that every bit of energy used in the supply chain is offset, that we are completely energy neutral. And just to explain what I mean by offset, it means that as DHL works out that your lorries across Germany this year will use 1 million tons of carbon. Therefore, what you do is you invest in a project. Let's say it could be to dam up a small river in New Zealand to take 100,000 homes completely out of the carbon chain. So they'll be running on water power instead of the rest of the electricity. And they'll stop heating their homes with gas or oil and so on. And you've worked out that if you invest in that dam, as a result of your let's say, $2 million of investment, that tips it over the edge, the town can finance the rest, it becomes commercially viable then, because it was a loss-making thing. But those $2-3 million subsidy makes it happen, and then you can claim every watt of energy that comes out of that dam for the next 25 years as part of your offset. And so you'd go around next year and say, okay, what's the project next year? And so on, and you start building up carbon credits. That's what an offset is. And you'll see a lot more of it. So, in summary, and with this I finish, and it's over to you now, customers will expect more at a speed which is almost impossible to imagine right now, and we will deliver it to them.